بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Today, in our 65th episode of the Islamic fiqh, we shall try to talk about a chapter known in the Islamic books as Al-Ayman wal-Nudhur. So, oaths and vows or pledges. So what is an oath? An oath is using Allah's name Azza wa Jal to confirm or to reiterate an issue, to emphasize it so that a person would believe you. And the Arabic letter, we can simply use the word I swear, and usually this is embedded in it by Allah's name. So you say uqsimu billahi, so and so on took place. And the easiest and simplest form is to use any of Allah's beautiful names or attributes with one of the three letters in Arabic alphabet that are indicators of swearing. The most well-known letter is Waw, or when we pronounce it we say Wa. The second one is Al-Ba, and when we pronounce it we say Bi. And the third one is Ta, and we pronounce it as Ta. So we say Wallahi, this is a swearing formula, Billahi, or Tallahi. And in Arabic, how do we know that these letters are used for swearing? It is indicated by the vowel at the end of Allah's name. If I say Wallahu or Wallaha, this is not swearing. Once I say Wallahi, Billahi, Tallahi, then this is a word of an oath, a word of swearing by Allah's name. And these oaths, as you will find in the book, can be divided into three types. The first one is idle oath, and we call it Ayman al-Laghu. Al-Laghu. And this is when a person says the words without intending his statement. And this happens a lot. When a mother shouts at her kids, Wallah, I will not put food for you. And no one says that this is serious and she's not going to serve them food. Wallahi, I'm going to beat you until I break your bones. This is something that is randomly used when a person may say an oath and he does not intend it. Likewise, a person comes and says, why are you leaving so early? I said, Wallahi, I have work to do. Here, Wallahi, is not to emphasize the fact that I have work, because I can easily not have anything to do. When someone asks, are you hungry? Wallahi, I just ate. Well, I didn't eat. But it's just used randomly without any intention. So this is called laghu. And likewise, part of this yameen al-laghu is when I swear about something which I was almost 100% confident it was true, and then it appears to have been not true. So a person may say an oath confirming that he believes to be true, but later realizes that it is false. So this is also considered laghu. Example, Sheikh, can you give me $50? Wallahi, I don't have even $5 in my pocket. And I thought seriously that I'm stone broke, I don't have this money. After he left, a while, a day, I take off my wallet and I find $200 in there. And I don't know where it came from. Maybe my wife put it in. Or maybe somebody gave it to me, I put it in my wife and I forgot totally about it when I was asked about the money. So is this considered to be lying? No. In the famous hadith, when Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, may Allah be pleased with him, came to Umar, and Umar was the caliph. So he asked him, Umar, did anything happen in this world that concerns the Muslims that we should know about? So Umar said, no. Why do you ask? He said, Subhanallah, I met Uthman a while ago, and we know that Sa'd ibn Waqqas, Uthman ibn Affan, and Umar are all among the 10 heaven-bound companions. They're the top 10. So he says, I met Uthman. He looked me in the eyes as we were coming close, face to face, and I said, Assalamu alaikum. And he looked me in the eyes and walked away, not replying to my salam. This is a big offense. How do you not reply to your brother's salam? So Sa'ad wanted some comfort, some solace from Umar. Now Umar, being the man who he is, did not let this go unsettled. So he sent someone to bring Uthman. And when Uthman came, he saw Sa'ad, he saw Umar. Umar did not give him a chance. He immediately went into the offensive. Said, why didn't you reply to your brother's salam? So Uthman was shocked. He said, he didn't give me salam. Sa'ad was shocked now. He said, yes, I did. Uthman said, no, you didn't. Sa'ad said, Wallahi, you did. And this is the point I wanted to mention. Uthman said, Wallahi, you didn't. And after a while, he hit his forehead and he said, Astaghfirullah, now I remember, yes, you did. You know, when you met me and read the salam, I was so depressed. I was so confused because I remembered an incident where the Prophet ﷺ was talking to us in the masjid, and he said that there is a phrase, a statement, that no one says it at times of depression or at times of calamity. And then he could not complete his statement because a man came from the nomads and started talking to him, so the Prophet did not finish it. Uthman says, Wallahi, every time I remember this incident and failing to know what was the statement, I get sort of blackout. And we know the rest of the hadith that Sa'ad said, I remember it because I went and asked the Prophet about it, and he told me about the supplication of Prophet Yunus, the one of the whale, when he said, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. My point is that though Uthman swore, but he did not expiate, because he swore over something that he was certain that was true. But then when he discovered that it wasn't, he's exempted from such a oath. Now, having said that idle oath, there's no expiation in it, this doesn't mean that people use it, abuse it, and say it without account. Allah says in the Qur'an, Allah shall not take you to task for oaths which you may have uttered without thought. So when you don't give it much thought and you say it out of habit, out of this or that, then there is no expiation over it. This is the first type of oaths. The second type is the confirmed oath. And the confirmed oath is when you say something and this has to do with the future, not with the past. So either you say this to confirm or oblige yourself to do it, or not to do a particular thing, or not to say a particular thing. And it relates to what is in the future and refers to something that is possible. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Qur'an, Allah will not take you to task for those of your oaths which you may utter without thought, but He will take you to task for oaths which you have sworn in earnest. So I say, Wallahi, I will not go tomorrow to my brother's house for lunch. Out of anger, I don't want to go. And they keep on insisting you have to go, he loves your presence and the food is good. So I swear and I emphasize with using Allah's name that I'm not going. Or I force myself and I swear that I will do this if this thing in the future. So I say, Wallahi, I will resign tomorrow. So I swore over something that I must do it. Either way, I have to do it because this is a confirmed oath, was in the future and it's possible to be done, and I intended it. The third type of oaths is the false oath. Something in the past that I deliberately use to protect myself, to escape from a situation, to deny something that is coming my way. So the person saying it knows that he or she is telling a lie and it does not take place and cannot be atoned for. You cannot give expiation. Did you take my pen yesterday? Wallahi, I didn't take it. And I took it. Wallahi, I forgot my homework, but I did not solve it. So I'm lying to escape punishment. Wallahi, did my chores, which I didn't, and the so on. And this is sinful. But the sin increases, multiplies, becomes huge to the extent that it overwhelms the person who had said it. When it is used to deny other people's rights or to take their rights unlawfully. This is known as al-yaminul ghamus, the immersing oath, or the oath that dips the person who said it in hellfire. So this is really serious. And this, we find it prevailing, widely spread in courts of law. You see, taking an oath is not always prohibited. It can be mandatory when mandatory things need to happen. It can be prohibited when used in prohibited means. It can be recommended and it can be not recommended, and it can be in the middle, which is permissible. So not all oaths are haram. Sometimes you have to swear by Allah Azza wa Jal, and it is one of the rules in Islam which was stated by the Prophet ﷺ, and it can be used as legal maxims, but it is definitely used in law and in a court of law. Al-bayyinatu ala man idda'a. The proof is mandatory upon the accuser. So if I am the accuser, I accuse you of taking $100,000 from me. You're not repaying it because you're denying. So we go to the court. Immediately, the moment I present my case, the judge tells me, bring your proof, either 2 witnesses or a written statement from that accused, from the defendant, or his confession. So I say, Wallahi, I have none of those, and it's my mistake, but I don't have none of those. But this does not change the fact that he took $100,000 from me as a loan, and he's now refusing to pay it back. So the judge, once he is certain that there is no proof, he goes to the defendant. The Prophet said, Al-bayyinatu ala man idda'a wal-yamin ala man ankar. So the accuser must provide the evidence. If not, then the oath is mandatory upon who denies it. So Sheikh, he took $100,000 as a loan from me, and now he is denying it. So the judge looks at him and he says, is what he's saying true? And the defendant says, no, Your Honor, it's not true. So the judge says to him, in this case, swear by Allah you did not take anything from him. If the defendant says, Wallahi, I did not take a penny or $1 or 100,000 from him, case is closed. Khalas. But if he rejects, he says, no, I'm not going to swear, I didn't take any money from him, then the judge obliges him to pay it back, because this is the only way out. So swearing is needed, but you find in so many cases the desire for quick money. And this is when people become greedy. And whenever there is greed, there is destruction and disaster. A few days ago, one of the sisters had a counseling session with me, and it was regarding investments. And she asked me about investing her money in some sort of a business which she is totally new or to. So I told her, do you have a running existing business? She said, yes. I've been running my own business in a specific field for the past 5, 7, 10 years maybe. And I'm making good money out of it. So I said, is there any need for similar projects like yours? She said, oh yes, there is a lot of need. So I said, instead of investing in IT, which you know nothing about, or in transportation, which you know nothing about, or in manufacturing, which you know nothing about, though the return of investment is far, far more greater than your current business, I advise you not to go into these businesses. And I explained to her in a few minutes why not and the risks. And I said to her, the logical thing is to invest in what you know best. So your current business, you will make certain and sure profit because you know the ins and outs of the business. No one can fool you. You don't need anybody to run it for you. You know the logistics of it, the strength and the weakness points in it. So you can easily even ask people to invest with you. So you save yourself a capital and secure a hefty profit due to your management skills, and you can duplicate this all over the place. Alhamdulillah, she was very happy and satisfied, and that was an eye-opener for her. And this is why we say that greed is the mother of all destruction and disasters. If you go to courts, you'll find people willing to testify for peanuts. And when you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. People are willing to swear by Allah Azza wa Jal for a meal, for a few dollars. So what? I'll swear by Allah that that you are the king of the universe, that you are Superman. No problem. I can do that. And this is why it's immersing oath. It dips the one who uses it in vain and lies about it in hellfire, as the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah says in the Qur'an, do not use your oaths as a means to deceive one another, lest your foot should slip after it has been firm, and lest you should be made to suffer the evil consequences of your having debarred others from the path of God, of Allah, with tremendous suffering awaiting you. And this sin is huge, especially when people do it in trading. Imagine that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that there are 3 types of people that Allah shall not speak to them on the Day of Judgment, should not purify them, should not look at them, and they will be severely tormented. 4 huge, great punishments. For what? The Prophet says, As-salam, in the third category, he mentioned two, and then the third one was a man who made the name of Allah his merchandise. He does not sell without swearing, and he does not buy without swearing. So many people, they market their products, come buy from me, come buy from me, and nobody comes. And when someone bargains with them, how much is this? $5. No, too expensive, I'll take it for $1. In order to sell, he says, Wallahi, I bought it for $4.95. Meaning that he's making 5 cents profit. Now, as a Muslim, when someone swears to me, I believe him. I see no reason not to believe him. So I said, okay, as long as you swore by Allah Azza wa Jal, I'll buy it. So he sells not the product, not the product. He's selling Allah's name in vain. And when he buys, he does the same. So how much is this? This is $5. Wallahi, I saw it in the shop next door for $4.45. So the seller says, if you swore, I believe you. Khalas, take it for the same price. And you're happy. You think that you struck the jackpot. You think that you made a very good deal and you saved money, not knowing that you've saved your seat, first class, in hellfire. So, if I swore by Allah's name, what should I do? You should pay the kafara. And what is the kafara? What is the atonement of oaths? Allah mentioned this in the Qur'an, where He says, Allah has already ordained for you believers a way to release you from such oaths. So what is that? The Prophet says, anyone who swears about something and then discovers that a different thing is better, should do the better thing and atone for this oath. What does that mean? It means that it is not mandatory for you to carry on with your oath. I say, Wallahi, I'm not going for lunch in my brother's house tomorrow. And I'm angry because we have respect issues. But then when I think about it, okay, if I don't go, I'm going to make a stance. And people would understand why. But if I go, this would soften my brother's heart, and he would feel and sense his mistake and how I am the one who's reaching out first. And that would make him embarrassed and maybe reconcile. So I think that the latter is the best alternative. But I made an oath. I said, Wallah, I'm not going. What to do? The Prophet says, whenever I swear over something and I see something better than it, I immediately expiate my oath and do the something which was better, or which is better. So I give the atonement, the kafara, and do it. And what is the kafara? Allah says in the Qur'an, the breaking of an oath must be atoned for by feeding 10 needy persons with more or less the same food as you normally give to your own families, or by clothing them, or by freeing one slave. He who cannot afford any of these shall fast 3 days instead. So now you are given a choice of 3. It's up to you, up to your own preference, whatever you want. Either feed 10 poor people and they have to be separate 10 people. It's not sufficient to feed one person 10 times or 5 persons twice. They have to be 10 separate different individuals and they have to be poor. And I have to feed them with something that is among the norm of my eating. So a normal meal, I shouldn't go for a single sandwich that is not a normal meal, where I usually take 3 sandwiches or 2. And it shouldn't be something like a falafel, which is nice, but it's not the average meal. In Arabia, the average meal is a plate of rice with some meat or some chicken on it. This is an average meal. So scholars say either you feed them cooked food of your average meal that you eat and your kids and family every day, or you give each poor person 1.125 grams of rice. So this is half a sa', 2 mud. And this raw rice is a lot. It's good for 3 meals, maybe, or 4 meals, or maybe more. But because it's raw, you're giving it to him in this fashion. Or if you don't want to feed them, you should clothe 10 people. And clothing them differs from one area to the other. So in Arabia, you just give them this thobe, this white shirt, long shirt, with a topping on the head like the one I'm wearing. That's sufficient for one person. Other countries, maybe a pair of jeans and a t-shirt or a shirt would be clothing, and so on. Or I may free a slave. I have the option to do either one of these 3, up to my own preference. If I am financially unable, in this case, I can fast 3 days. The vast majority of Muslims immediately jump the gun. They immediately go for fasting. Though they're capable of feeding 10 people, they are rich, they have money, but they always thought, according to the people around them, that fasting is the atonement. And whoever does this while financially capable of feeding 10 people, his fasting does not expiate his oath. He has to pay for it again. What are the conditions of atonement? There are conditions for it to become obligatory. And according to our book, we have 3 conditions. 1, it must be a valid oath. So if I swear by the moon or the stars or by the Prophet ﷺ or by the Kaaba or by Jesus, all of these are not valid, legitimate oaths, and hence I don't have to pay any kafara for that. So if I say, and this is very common in Arabia, to swear by al-amana. So I said, bil-amana, put it there. B, al-amana. B is a letter of swearing. The Prophet said, whoever swears by al-amana, he had committed shirk. In another narration, whoever swears by al-amana, he's not from among us. So this is a major sin. In Egypt, almost every single person who's not practicing uses the word nabi. Wow, the letter wa is, as we've stated in the beginning, is one of the letters of swearing. So he says, when Nabi do this and that, when Nabi I'm not coming. And all of this is shirk. It's minor shirk, but still it's greater than major sins, as minor shirk is below major shirk and above major sins. So if somebody swears by other than Allah, this doesn't take place. If someone swears without intending, though he used Allah's names, again, you're not obliged to atone or to expiate, as in idle oaths, and we talked about that. The second condition is that the person swearing, he has to be doing that out of his own choice. So there's not a gun pointed to his head. There's no compulsion. And when it is done through compulsion, then this does not take place. And this is cascaded on almost everything in Islam. The Prophet said, ﷺ, my ummah will not be accountable for what they do through a genuine mistake, what they omit to do out of forgetfulness, and what they are compelled to do. رفع عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه. والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه. It was pardoned for my ummah what they do by mistake, what they forget, and what they are forced or compelled to do. So if I go to my wife's house and my father-in-law, who hates my guts, holds a shotgun to my chest, and I know that he's crazy, and he says, if you don't divorce my wife thrice, I will pull the trigger, and I can see sparks coming out of his eyes. So I say, I divorce my wife, I divorce my wife, I divorce my wife, and I give you a fourth one as a bonus. I divorce my wife. Then he puts the gun down. I leave. I honk my wife. She comes down and we leave to our home. She says, you divorced me 4 times. I said, no, divorce did not take place because I was compelled. I was forced. And the third condition is when you say it, you give the oath, you swear by Allah, but at the time you don't remember. And as I said, that, for example, I swear by Allah, I'm not gonna eat red apples from now on. And all of a sudden, one day, I was so hungry. I just wanted anything to take a bite from. And I saw this apple and I took it, I ate it. After I finished, I remembered that I took an oath not to eat red apples. I called the sheikh. What should I do, sheikh? And the sheikh says, did anybody compel you? I said, no. Did you swear by other than the name of Allah? I said, no. He said, were you remembering that you made an oath? He said, no. Oh, I said, okay, if you did not remember, there is no expiation on you. You are exempted and you're free to go. Now, one last issue before we go to the questions is that, can I exclude something? And this is in Arabic known as al-istithna. So when you say an oath or you swear by Allah Azza wa Jal and you make an exception, then this exception is valid. So for example, if I say, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, I'm gonna come tomorrow, inshallah. This inshallah means that you're making an exception. If Allah is willing. So if I did not come, this is Allah's willing. Because I didn't come. If Allah willed it, I would have come. So you may argue, say, but Sheikh, you said this to protect yourself. I said, yes, it's true. And this is one of the legitimate ways of protecting yourself from atoning your oath and falling into breaking it, is to say, inshallah. Your son nags you that you take him tomorrow to the games, and you say, okay, I will do that, I will do that. Khalas, I said I'll do that. And he keeps on nagging on you, and he said, Wallahi, I'm not going to take you tomorrow to the games, inshallah. And I'll show you how you stop nagging. Now he doesn't know that inshallah here means that you have the choice to go through or not. So making an exception, making an istithna, is something that saves you from a lot of trouble. It is also important to note that what you intend is important, because we have something in Islam called al-ma'arid or at-tawriyah, which means a form of camouflaging what your statement is. So you surround it with ambiguity that can go both ways. And this is one of the ways of not lying. When the Prophet ﷺ saw a nomad in one of his expeditions, he asked him, did you see the people of Quraysh? And the man said, I will not answer you until you tell me where you are from. So the Prophet said, I will tell you where we are from after you answer me. So the man answered him. And then he said, okay, I did my part of the bargain. Where are you from? So the Prophet said, we're from water. And the word ma, which means water, has a number of meanings in Arabic. It can refer to a spring. You know, the nomads live in oases, in areas around the spring, so that they can water their flocks and herds from. So it's ma'ul Iraq, ma'u al-Bahrain, ma'u this, ma'u that. They associate with water an area. And it also means water, which is referred to in the Qur'an as semen. So when the Prophet said, we are from semen, we are from water, this is not a lie. The man thought it was the other meaning of water, which is a well or a spring. So he's asking, which spring are you referring to? So the Prophet did not say, and left. So the Prophet did not lie, but definitely the answer was not according to the man's anticipation. Now this ta'reed can sometimes be used with swearing. So when someone asks you, did you take my pen? I said, Wallahi, I did not take it. And intentionally, I'm intending I did not take it. That is your car keys. But you're asking me about the pen. So my answer is ambiguous because I'm referring to something else. Scholars say that whenever such an oath is given when you are the oppressor, in this case, it is according to the intention of the one asking you. Because this cannot be allowed. We are in a court of law, and the judge says, did you take $100,000 from him? and I say, Wallahi, I did not take it. And I intend, Wallahi, I did not take his car. I did not take his bag. I did not take his property. So the judge says, as long as he swore, you are free to go. And I'm happy. No, this does not exempt me from the sin, because the hadith is, your intent, your oath, your swearing is according to your opponent's intention, not yours. So your opponent is asking about his pen, and you swore about something else, this would not help you. And sometimes such wit is needed. It was reported that Ibn al-Jawzi, the great scholar of the 5th century, he's different to Ibn al-Qayyim or Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyyah, who is a student of Shaykh al-Islam bin Taymiyyah. He's a different person. He came in the 9th century or something like that. He died in there. No, this one is Abu al-Faraj, Ibn al-Jawzi, the compiler of the great book of Tafsir, Zadul Masir, and the great book Sayyidul Khatir, and many other books. And he was one of the great preachers that they say whenever he preached in the masjid, 5,000 to 10,000 used to attend and weep and cry when he reminds them of Allah Azza wa Jal. He was a full scholar from every aspect you look at him. The story goes that he was once in the masjid, in the grand masjid, and two groups of hooligans. One group is from the Sunni and one group is from the Shia. They had a dispute. They had an argument. Who was best, Abu Bakr or Ali? And they barged into the masjid with sparks flying from their eyes, intending to do harm to someone. Hooligans. And they asked, Imam, who's better, Abu Bakr or Ali? So he was a witty, smart man, and his answers were quick, decisive. So he said, I'm going to answer you in one statement, and I'm not going to allow this rubbish to continue in my masjid, and I'm leaving afterwards. So they said, okay, who was better, Abu Bakr or Ali? He said, the one whose daughter was under him. And he left. Now, in Arabic, a wife is described as under me, meaning under my protection, under my guardianship, etc. So when he said the man whose daughter is under him, the Sunnis say, ha ha ha, that's Abu Bakr, because Abu Bakr's daughter is under the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha. So he's a better man. The Shia said, no. He was referring to Ali, because the Prophet's daughter is under him, because she's the wife of Ali. So Ali is better. And Ibn al-Jawzi left without making a sound. These ambiguous answers are extremely beneficial and good in cases where you need to defend yourself, not in cases where you want to oppress someone or to wrong them and you lie. There is a type of oath and swearing which is dependent on case-to-case scenario, but in case of harm or severe hardship, a Muslim is allowed to resort to that. A woman got married a couple of years ago, has a child. All of a sudden, it came to her husband to ask her this question: did you ever have an illicit relationship before marriage? Were you ever married? Were you ever in a relationship with another man? And she doesn't know what to say. She says, of course not. And such questions must not be answered. And you should show how furious and insulted you are when someone asks you such a stupid question. And only stupid men ask such questions. But the man comes and says, swear to me that you never had a relationship or I'll divorce you. So she calls, what to do, Sheikh? I said, swear to him. Say, Wallahi, I had never ever had a relationship with another man before you. And this is called swearing to seek refuge. التعوذ. And this is dependent on case-to-case scenario, but it is permissible in order to avoid the worst of the two evils, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We go to the questions, and Jannatul Firdaus says, I'm very confused about the Arafah fast, as I am from Bangladesh. Here, some people fast after the day of Arafat that was held in Saudi Arabia, and some people fast during the Arafat in Saudi Arabia. So what should I do? Though who fast during Arafat said that it is haram to fast in Eid day because they follow Saudi, and also most of the Maulana from Ahl al-Hadith do this and explain it logically to the people. That's why I'm confused. Well, there's no need to confuse Jannatul Firdausi, because if you look at the concept of the lunar months, how do we know that a lunar month has started and has ended? The answer is by observing the moon, detecting the crescent when it disappears and when it reappears and reborn. And Arafat is on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. So as in Ramadan, people in Bangladesh, India start a day after Saudi Arabia due to their sighting, hopefully, of the crescent. Likewise, during the month of Dhul Hijjah, Arafat is dependent on the 9th of the month, and so is Eid. It's dependent on the 10th of the month. Whether it's a Friday, as is the case in Saudi Arabia, or a Saturday, as the case in Bangladesh. So you should not be fasting with Saudi Arabia on Arafat simply because the pilgrims are in Mount Arafat performing their Hajj, because your 9th is a day later and it coincides with our Eid. So this is the permissible way of doing it. Each region in the Muslim world has a different sighting of the moon, and this was applicable at the time of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, and they all approved of it. As in the case that each region has its own Fajr timing, Maghrib timing, so it is not permissible for people during Fajr in Bangladesh to wait until the people in Mecca, in Haram area, in the Kaaba, pray Fajr. That is a 2 hours difference, and the sun is in the middle of the sky. They have their own timings and you have your own timings, and Allah knows best. Rashid says, who will receive the blood money of the killed victim. So a person, Ahmed, kills Abdullah. The family of Abdullah demands justice. So the judge gives him the choice. Would you like execution or blood money, or pardoning him and setting him free? So Abdullah's family say, no, we want the blood money. So Ahmed gives them 100 camels, or the value of 100 camel, and they receive the money. How to distribute it? This money is considered to be the wealth that the victim left behind. So Abdullah has died, leaving property, leaving money, leaving stocks. How do we divide them? Like the rules of inheritance. Likewise, the blood money is divided through the rules of inheritance. So does Abdullah have a wife? He said yes. Does he have children? He says yes. So the wife gets 1/8, and the children gets the boys twice the share of the girls. Does he have a father and a mother? He says yes. Each one gets 1/6, and so on. So the money, the blood money, is distributed in such a fashion. Khadija says, is freelancing as a web designer permissible? The answer is yes, it is permissible. But what goes during the designing is what needs to be asked about. But to design a web page, no problem at all. She goes on saying, and during designing of e-commerce web school or web travel web, adding pictures, is it permissible or not? Well, this depends on the pictures. If you put photographs of men, of children, there's no problem in that. If you put photographs of women or deceased, this is haram and not permissible. If you're ordered to put a link for mortgage installments or buying transactions through riba, or to put background music, this is haram. So actually your job description, the details of your job as a web designer, defines whether what you're doing is halal or haram. Zayd Zubair says, you said about kneeling that it is haram, but what about the incident where Umar knelt before the Prophet ﷺ? I do not know of any such incident. What we know of is the hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal, may Allah be pleased with him, when he was sent by the Prophet ﷺ to Yemen to teach them and to judge between them, and he came back, and the moment he came back he fell and prostrated to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet was said, Mu'adh, what are you doing? So Mu'adh said, I saw this where the Jews and Christians used to do it to their masters, and I thought that you were more worthy of them. So the Prophet said, if I were to order a person to prostrate to another, I would have ordered the wife to prostrate to her husband. Meaning that prostration to humans or to other than Allah, to be precise, prostration to other than Allah is totally prohibited. So I don't know where you got this story about kneeling, but it is not true. I believe that we will stop here, and until we meet next Monday, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.